Yeah, we're so glad you're here. Oh, we're so glad to be together in unity.
These beautiful flowers this morning that were given by the Women for Unity group in recognition of the anniversary of their second year meeting. And last week, I failed to mention that we had flowers that were donated by Alice in memory of her son. So we want to recognize that too. I failed to do that last week. So how is everyone? You had a good week? You had a week, right? We asked somebody that earlier, and they said, well, I had a week. Yeah.
Let's say it together. We made it.
We made it.
We made it. Wasn't sure. There were points, but we made it. No, it was a good week, right? Good week.
Yeah, it was a good
Hey,
week.
today is a special day. If you notice, we don't have any notes up here at all. Okay, so
Now this is a song. That's a song.
well, I don't know.
No
if-
notes.
They can't see it. Anyway, I need my notes. But no. So what we're doing today is every once in a while we like to do a Q&A. And what that is where that you get to ask any question that you would like to ask. If it has, as long as it's, spiritually, don't ask us about politics. Don't ask us about
Football.
what our favorite team is, right? How many know we have to keep those kind of things out of here right now? So, but other than that, if you have a spiritual question, how many understand that spirituality is all-inclusive? Okay? We are all spiritual beings, so everything you do comes from your spirit. When you do something from joy, that is a spiritual practice, even if you're cutting up carrots or celery. It's a spiritual practice. Everything you do is spiritual because you're a spiritual being. Now, if you're just living just from the body, that's a different story, right? And that can be something that it can get you into trouble, right? So it's important to live from your spirit, from your heart. And so if you have any kind of question at all that you'd like to ask this morning, and try to make it as concise as you can, right? How many understand that's important, right? So if you have a question, just keep it as concise, and when you bring it up, and then we'll be happy to address it and talk about it a little bit. And so, Michael, would you like to help us out with the microphone? Michael will be our professional microphone person.
So we just finished up a 4-week series on
Yes, we
the
did.
4 agreements. And how many of you really enjoyed that? Good. So we've had a lot of fun with it around here. I've noticed as a community when we're talking with each other and we'll say things like, don't take this personally, or don't take that personally,
Yeah.
or are you doing your best? So we've had a lot of fun with it. And I'm glad to see that it's kind of made its way into our conversation and our interactions with one another, which shows that you guys really got it. You heard, so that was good. So you might have questions about that even
Right.
this morning, and that's fine too.
All right.
Don't everyone raise your hand at
All right, yeah,
once.
so just raise your hand, and Michael will come towards you with the microphone. Now, you have to speak into the microphone so that all can, you have to speak up and be bold so that all can hear, right? So that everyone can hear. Yes?
I just say
You will not be on
You'll
camera.
not be on camera, okay? So, but you're,
That got one hand up over there, okay.
very good. All right, Phil. Fill us in, Phil.
Hey, Phil is our sacred service coordinator, so if you ever want to get involved in volunteering in the church, Phil is a great individual. to
Phil
get to
is your
know.
man.
Hey, Phil.
I just want to see Michael walk all the way across the room. My question is, the 4 agreements is a perfect example. So we learn really great spiritual principles here on Sunday morning and through our readings in various places. There seems to be that disconnect from incorporating it into our everyday life.
Uh-huh.
So the first agreement was be impeccable with your speech.
Right.
And then you're walking around in your kitchen with your wife and something bugs you and it doesn't connect. So any tips that you may have as to how to make that happen?
Yeah.
So,
Good question. Yeah. How many has ever heard the term mindfulness? Mindfulness, right? Keep in mind, in your mind, what is most important. All right? What is most important to you? What is that? All of us have been programmed to think and to speak and to act and react in certain ways. And so by staying in a mindful state of awareness, let's say it together, awareness. When you're aware of your body, it's important to keep some attention in your legs and your feet. How many what happens when you don't? It's easy to what? Trip and fall, right? So keep a little bit of awareness in your body so that when you speak, you're speaking from here. You're not speaking from your head. You can tell when somebody's talking from their head because it's a little more whiny. You know what I mean? Right? And nasal, no, not nasal. That's just a country music thing. So mindfulness, being aware of yourself. And so when I'm with my wife, I want to pay attention to her and aware of her energy, aware of her feelings, aware about what she needs. Jesus said to go the extra mile. Did he say that? To go the extra mile. And so I have discovered that if I go the extra mile with the people in my life, whoever shows up in the moment, if I'm going the extra mile with them and I'm really paying attention, and I'm not just trying to tell them something that I think is important or what I think they should do or say or how they should act, but I am with them in the moment. And when you are with people in the moment, you create, Jesus said, 2 or more gathered together, I am there. Then that Christ awareness, consciousness, comes forth. And so all of your relationships are taken up to a higher level because you are speaking from that spiritually centered space, from your being. Doesn't that sound good? Wouldn't that be amazing if everybody practiced that? Yeah.
And I would add to that, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer in redos. Redos. Yes. So there is absolutely nothing wrong with catching yourself, even if it's after the fact, and saying, you know what, I could have, fourth agreement, I could have done that better, right? Can we redo that? Can I do that over? That didn't come out the way that I wanted it to, or gosh, I found myself taking that personally and I really don't need to be doing that. I'm going to redo that. Redos are a wonderful thing. So just practice it, practice it, practice it. Keep it in the forefront of your mind, and redos.
Yeah.
Should I stand up or no?
All right. May I have some more?
Okay, bouncing off of what you said, and
Yes.
when 2 come together and we're creating that Christ consciousness and awareness, mindfulness, listening,
Yes.
what about when the people you're with are not on that page, are
Okay.
not mindful, maybe do take things personally, and there's still people you're closely tied to, but you're trying to still hold that higher vibration?
Very good.
Your ways to hold space for their growth, but also, stay on your own growth.
Great question. Very good question. And so with that, you want to have sort of an attached but yet detached interaction with people you don't know, when you're at the grocery store, when you're at family reunions, right? Or committee meetings, or the housing groups that get together and make rules and stuff that you don't like. So you're attached, you're there with them, but you're not attached to the outcome. I can only be responsible for my energy. I can't be responsible for other people's energy. I cannot be responsible for how people present themselves in the world, how they speak, how they act. But I can be responsible for me. And so I have to set the boundaries, right? Let's say together, boundaries. I have to stay within my own energy, okay, my own field of awareness, because I got to keep my peace, right? I have to, because I don't want to lose my mind. So I've got to stay centered and focused as much as I can, right? How many know that's where the redo part comes in? You're not going to always do it. Sometimes Uncle Joe is going to say something, and you're going to go, ah, you're going to pull your hair out. So it's, but the more you can just be with those people and honor where they are, whether it is a choice that you would make, whether it is something that you would agree with. How many understand that most people will not agree with you? Have you learned that yet? I would dare say everybody in this room has different opinions about all kinds of things, right? How many here love chocolate? Anybody? All right, we got a few. How many prefer vanilla? How many like the rocky road? There you go. How many like it all?
So, too, and I'm thinking that holding space with people, when you're with people and you're holding space, one of the things that we talked about recently in prayer chaplain training was you're really creating a container for possibility. In that container that you're creating around you and the other people or other person, you're creating a space where anything is possible. And if you can show up in that space and abide by those 4 principles, those 4 agreements, wow, what a safety container you create for someone to say something that is in disagreement with what you think or believe, or to act in a certain way, and for you to be able to come from a place of responsiveness rather than reactiveness, and for you to be able to hold your center in that speaks volumes to them, because when they've got something that they need to unload in a safe environment, who are they immediately going to think of? The person that was able to hold that space with them and be present with them. And there's a lot of people right now that are looking for safe spaces to share, because there's a lot of sharing going on that's getting a lot of pushback, right? And so to just be able to be that space where someone knows, hey, I can share what I'm thinking, what I'm believing, what I'm struggling with, whatever it is, and I know that I'm going to be met with presence, that I'm going to be met with a loving presence, no judgment, and that we can walk away knowing that everything is still okay between us. I think that's, to be able to do that in this day and age is a wonderful thing.
Let's say together, I'm not a troll, and I will not act like one online.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's fun sometimes to belittle people and to put them down and make them feel bad. Yeah, because I'm right. They're
Yeah, and when
not.
you do that, you're doing it to yourself
Yeah,
because of the law of oneness.
yeah.
What I do to you, I'm really just injuring myself with that stuff.
There we got some more over here.
Okay. Hi. This is my first service here, so
Oh,
I
great.
I have
Welcome.
a couple questions, and I don't want to seem offensive or anything.
Okay.
I'm just genuinely curious. What are your core beliefs surrounding Christianity? Do you believe in heaven or hell, or do you think Like, what are your core beliefs? I'm just genuinely curious here. So.
Okay. Our core belief is Jesus said, love God and love neighbor. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's our core belief. So everything we teach comes out of that. So whatever heaven is, it comes from that, from a state of loving kindness. Whatever hell is, okay, it comes from that. And so unity we teach principles, and people decide what is right for them, okay, what works for them. Because everybody's on their own path. I'm on the James King path. She's on the Leah path. Barbara's on the Barbara path, right? So we're all on our own individual path. And now if I'm from an Asian country, I might have some different ideas about some of this, right? Or if I'm from a different culture, I may have some different ideas. And so in unity, we try as much as we can to be all inclusive, okay? So personally, if you're asking me what I think, I can give you that. Are you interested in hearing my opinion?
Uh-oh.
Maybe not. Okay. All right. That's fine.
In unity, we have 5 basic principles that we talk about all the time. The first one being that God is good. God is just good. And the second one is that because God is good, we are good. We were not inherently born as sinners. We were born good and we are good. Third one is we create our existence, our experiences, the things that happen through our thinking. The fourth one is that we change our thinking and elevate our consciousness through prayer and meditation. And the fifth one is that it's not enough to just know all of that stuff. You got to put it into action. You got to practice it. You got to put it into action.
Yeah,
so
Phil.
those are kind of the 5 basic tenets of unity. Now, if you want to know what he believes personally, he can tell you. But that's the 5 core.
Because this is a safe place to discuss ideas, right? And figure it out and talk it through. What works for you? Because, when I first started, I was a fundamentalist minister, What is a fundamentalist minister? It's one who forgets to put the fun before the mental, right? That's kind of the way we were. And so we kind of had God figured out. It was this box, and God was in this box. And over a period of time, I realized that my God was too small, right? That wasn't that God was small. The infinite intelligence is small, but my thoughts I was thinking too small. And I realized that there's this divine infinite intelligence, this universal presence that is everywhere present and loves everybody. Loves everybody. Now, we will all reap what we sow, right? What you put out is what you're going to get back. So you don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to get theirs, right? Because everybody's going to get what they get. And it depends on what you're putting out, right? So we don't even have to worry about that because we're all self-corrective beings. Now, when it talks about judgment in the Bible, where it uses the word judgment, if you really look it up, it's a review. It is a critique, right? How many know that sometimes, well, especially when I first started speaking, I needed a critique. How'd I do? Well, and I would get a critique from people that I trusted,
Still gets a critique.
Yeah.
So do I.
She gives me the critique, so. It's not about judging in a negative sense. Judgment does not include condemnation. It's not in the Bible. Condemnation is something that the human ego loves to do. We love to judge. And we love sending people to hell, right? Right? Isn't it true? Because they don't believe like we do. And so we try our best to be as interfaith and be allowing and accepting as possible. Now, there are times when sometimes, it's hard. Say it with me, it's hard. And sometimes we fall down. And that's when we get the redo. And we can forgive. That's why Jesus said, how many times should you forgive? That's right. That's a lot. So it's ongoing. It's continual. And we need to forgive each other, give space to each other, room to make some mistakes, room to figure it out, room to do some. Jesus said, seek, search, research. And wonderfully, we have this internet thing. How many's heard of it? You can research just about anything. But the real research happens when you start looking within yourself. Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. You start looking within. And you say, okay. So what's really going on here? So do the research. Seek and you will find. Knock. Keep on knocking. And the door will open, right? Yeah. And ask, and it will be given.
I've been reading a lot of, I'm reading this wonderful book. It's about integral Christianity, and it's called Is Your God Big Enough? Is Your God Close Enough? And Is Your God You Enough? And the idea is that, if your God is not, if you can define your God is not big enough. Because the minute you try to define God, you've put God in that box. And we were talking about that the other day. I can look back on my experience in the fundamentalist church and see just how small God was for me. The box that I had determined was God was very small. And then the idea that, is your God close enough? Our spiritual journey and our relationship with the divine, we have to be careful not to make it all head, not to make it an intellectual exercise, but to understand that your connection with spirit is a heart thing. You feel it, it's an emotional thing. And then finally, is your God you enough? Ye are gods. That was what was said in the New Testament, and it's bringing that Christ consciousness into manifestation into our world and recognizing, Jesus taught the kingdom of heaven is within, and we have taken that and made it all about an afterlife, right? The kingdom of heaven is what happens afterwards. And all through his teachings, he was trying to get across the idea that you and God are one, and you and others are one. That was the basic idea, really, that, we're one in this thing. There is no you and me. There's just oneness. There's just us. Yeah. I don't know, just some thoughts. I don't.
Sorry if I'm hogging the microphone, but so do you believe that truth is relative? Do you think that there are right beliefs and wrong beliefs, or do you think that every belief is correct? Because I feel like at some point there has to be a line drawn where something is wrong, but the person believes that it's truth. I'm just asking here.
It's a very good question. There's two ways to look at that when we talk about truth and unity. And one is there's the absolute truth, which cannot be changed. It's absolute truth, right? And then there is the relative truth, which is you and I. Because most of us are, we're still working on the absolute, understanding the absolute. So most of us deal in personal and relative truth. This is what's true for me. Do we have any cat people here? Do we have any dog people here? Do we have any giraffe people here? Well, you never know. So you see what I'm saying? So what's true in my experience, because God is experiential. God, it's like a love relationship. When you're in a relationship with somebody, it's not about, okay, you didn't say that right to me, or you didn't do that right. You were wrong. It's about, oh, wait a minute. Love is an essence. It is a spiritual energy, okay? And so by being in a relationship, we can have that intimacy together. And it's not about being right or wrong. It's just about being you. It's just about me being me. You understand? And when we come together, we create this third thing called a relationship. And we can be in that oneness with each other. And that's the whole goal. Jesus said, I'm in you, you're in me, and we're all in God together, you know. The Father's in me, he said. And so that was the whole point that he was teaching. Listen, it's oneness. Oneness. When the Bible says there's only one God, it's not saying, okay, there's just this one guy with a long white beard sitting on a chair in outer space. What he was saying is there is this oneness. That's what is meant. See, as human beings, we have physical bodies, and so we're learning how to see ourselves as spiritual beings. Does that make sense? Okay. Formless love. Very good.
Okay. I had to write this down because I don't want to forget. Okay, so the word boundaries has, I feel like, become kind of a buzzword in our
Okay.
culture recently. But the word boundary means separation, right? So in a world where unity and oneness is needed, how do we show up with healthy boundaries in a way that we're still melding with the other person, not causing more division, and also not viewing it as separating yourself from that person?
Okay, very good.
Questions this morning.
Yeah, you guys are thinking this through. So, do you want to answer that?
No, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So, you know, we have boundaries in this world because we need boundaries. Because you have your own experience. Your experience is unique to you, right? And so there is this, I think that in the Bible it says that don't you know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit? And so like your physical body is a boundary. It holds that sacred energy inside you, doesn't it? And nobody else has a right to encroach that boundary, your physical boundary, unless you allow it. Make sense? We respect each other's physicality. I respect you, that's your boundary, right? You ever get somebody who's talking to you and just, you don't know them really well, and they just, hey, how you doing there, Leah? And just talks in your face and with the garlic and the, you know, anyway, it's a thing. So we, and then there's psychological boundaries. There's spiritual boundaries. Because somebody comes to me and says, James, I'm a Muslim. I say, okay, I respect that. Now, I personally am not a Muslim, but you know what? I honor people who are Muslims. You know, they're going to pray 5 times a day, right? And so there are differences that people will have, and we need to learn how to honor those differences. Those differences are the boundaries. You know, if Leah tells me, well, I don't like it when you pull the cover off, and this is a real thing. And you turn over and you have all the cover, right? So, in a sense, that's like a cover boundary, you know, blanket boundary. And so it's learning to see what other people's boundaries are and respecting those. And a lot of times, by seeing other people's boundaries, you will be able to establish your own boundaries. Does that make sense? So, what is right for you, you know? But you always have a right to change your mind because it's all what? Relative. Is it really relevant to your life? You know, a lot of times we have boundaries that we create that are really absurd. I know I've had some in my life, you know, and certain religious boundaries and so forth. Well, this is what I believe, and we're not going to talk about anything else, you know. But I think it's healthy to have physical, psychological, spiritual boundaries. And by boundaries, we just mean stay in your own energy field. Stay in your own auric field, right? Because we all have this spiritual energy that's radiating out of us. And if I could stay in mine and stay with the James King version, right? Have you heard of that? Stay in that and play in that field and feel safe. That's why we need boundaries, so we can feel safe and feel loved and feel appreciated. Does that make sense?
All of that.
Okay.
And after thinking about it, so Jesus spoke about there being vipers, right? So when we talk about oneness, that we are all one, we also recognize that not everyone is living from that understanding and that knowing, and they're living from a different set of
Predatorial.
living from a different set of ideas and beliefs and thoughts, and they don't recognize that they're a divine being, right? That resides in them as potential, but it's not realized, it's not recognized. So we have people that show up in our lives that are not good for us because they're living from, they're living completely opposite or outside of the way that we live. And so it's okay to not have people in your sphere of influence or in your energy and still recognize that you're one with them. You're still a piece and part of each other and a part of God. There's still that oneness connection. They're just not living from that space, not making any attempt perhaps, because they don't know. They're still asleep. They haven't awakened to the possibility that life could be different, that they could live differently, that there is a divine connection, all of these things. And so I think, sometimes it's healthy, right, for us not to have certain energies, certain people in our experience. Would you agree? Yeah. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
And I praise her and give her love all the time. She could say terrible things to me, and it's working, but I go through a lot of pain. And she's very important to me. And I just said to her the other day, I said, you're my only daughter, and I'm your only mother. We have a special relationship. So I keep reinforcing something that she doesn't recognize, and she is definitely not spiritual or anything
Right.
like that.
So in those circumstances, I think, you come from the place that you know to come from. You act in the way that you know to act. But see, you can only be responsible for you. You can't be responsible for what she believes or how she reacts. And so you just have to keep doing what you know to do. Now, if it was a toxic kind of thing, it might be healthy to keep her outside of your boundary. But since you can talk to her and it's not a toxic thing, you can cultivate that and nurture that relationship and hold her in sacred space, pray for her, and envision healing in the relationship, that sort of thing. Yeah. Well, all of us come with our curriculum, right? And so this may be a piece and part of your curriculum, and it's just what you get to dance with in this human experience. We all have things that we get to dance with.
And sometimes in life, sometimes things will hurt,
Yeah.
right? When you're grieving, when you have loss, a loss of a relationship, you wish that, you could just, you have a family member, you wish that we could just get along. Why can't we just get along? But you don't. And it's painful sometimes. It hurts.
Continuation of your question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think where I get caught up sometimes is like, if we show up with that Christ-like love, then it doesn't matter what anybody else is, what their energy field is, or what they're putting out, or anything like that, because the love that we exude from our bodies is so much stronger to be able to transmute the people that we come in contact with.
Right.
So at that point, why do we need this boundary? Why do we need this separation instead of focusing on continuing to just exude love from our bodies?
Yeah. It's not really a separation. It is in one sense it is, but it isn't, okay? It's like when you go to the zoo. You ever been to a zoo? I think we have one here in Greenville. And you've got the lions and the tigers and the bears, oh my, right? And so they have a totally different way of looking at things. Many of them are predators. And so when they look at me, they don't see, oh, this beautiful, wonderful child of God. They see lunch, you know? and so there has to be that see, things only mean what you say they mean to you, right? So if we put up a white picket fence around our house that we think looks lovely and we just enjoy having it, the dog can run around, you know what I mean? But somebody else might look at that and say, oh, that's a boundary. That is
They're unfriendly.
yeah.
Trying to keep us out.
You know what I mean? So it's really about definitions, how you define it. Because we are all in different physical bodies. We all have different tastes. There are certain times when it's appropriate for me to be around people who, you know, if I'm in a big crowd at a big concert or whatever, there's all kinds of people around, you know, it's the energy's there, you know, but I don't have to necessarily hang out with snakes and vipers and, you know, and monkeys who are not going to be pleasant, right? You see what I'm saying? Predators. So there is this aspect. We do have to protect our own energy and stay in peace. And so I don't think that's wrong,
You know,
because that's how I define it. Does that make sense?
And some of it too may be like an individual call. So if you're living fully into that Christ potential, and you can be in the presence of someone like that and exude unconditional love and not be moved off your center, that's great for you. You can do that. Another person may be triggered, may not be able to stay in that place. They're still practicing, right? You know, and can't. And so for them, it might be the best thing not to be there because they can't stay steady in that place of unconditional love. So I think really it just depends, you know for you. Yeah?
Well, it's like playing the piano, you know. I remember as a child, I wanted to play the piano. And so, you know, I sat down and went, boop, boop, blah, 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 and everybody says, please don't do that, right? Because it is the spacing in between the notes, right, that creates a beautiful melody. And so sometimes it's the boundaries, okay, the spacing. If you sit down and play the guitar, you know, and you know which chord to hit, which string to pluck, then you're going to create a beautiful sound, you know, because you have some structure to it. And that's the way music is. That's the way life is. Life is when you have a particular structure, you know, you can stay within those boundaries, then you're going to be at peace. Now, there's going to be times, you know, you're going to run across the snakes. And, you know, we walked out here on the property and there's a snake. Well, it's black snake, you know, it's a garden snake. He's not going to hurt anything. But it's the idea of a snake, right? And so there will be the predators that show up in our life. But when they do, if we've read the good energy, then we'll be able to see the negative energy and protect ourselves and stay in a safe space. Because how many know we want all of you to be safe? To be safe in your body, in your spirit, in your consciousness, and in your psychology. Right?
All right.
Yes,
Building on everything, especially about people who trigger us, that are incorporated in our lives through family or what have you. And you get to a point and you create that boundary and sometimes even say, hey, this person cannot be in my life in any form. And then you get a phone call with an amends, with things have changed, can we move forward?
Yeah.
So with Christ in my heart, I do a do-over. And in my own experience, in decades of relationships with quite a few people, within a short period of time, they're back bringing pain. They're back triggering. And I get confused because I had Christ in my heart and I opened up and I believed that they were going to do right this time. They told me they were. And so then I have to go back to creating that boundary.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do with this conundrum?
Well, for one thing, let me just say right off the bat, and this one's going to be a hard one to hear for all of us, is that nobody triggers us. The trigger resides inside of us, and we trigger ourselves. The behavior that someone engages in doesn't trigger us. It's my response, my reaction to the behavior that's being exhibited that allows me to get triggered. I just wanted to put that in for extra brownie points there.
And I believe that we all need to have our buttons pushed. If you never have your buttons pushed, you will never grow. Think about that. You need your buttons pushed, because if there is a button left to push, it will most likely be pushed. And so we see the up and the downs of people, and that's the human experience. You know, it's like, you know, somebody is on the wagon and they're doing really good, then all of a sudden they fall. Right? They're still a child of God. They still have good in them. They still have potential. They just made a mistake, right? They just messed up. We all do that.
What I would invite us to do in situations like this, because we all have this that happens, I would invite us to bring that back to, all right, this is showing up again, you know, in my life, different person, different whatever, but it's here again. So what is it in me that needs to be looked at? What is the lesson that I keep returning to?
Very good question.
That I need to figure out. That what is it in me that needs to be healed? What belief system do I have that says that this always happens to me, or this is all I'm deserving of, or whatever it is that keeps bringing this back to me? First and foremost, when things happen like this, I think it's imperative that we first turn inward. What is it that's putting me in the space that here this thing is again? Because as I said earlier, you know, we all have our curriculum. We all have the things that we're dancing with. So if something is continually showing up for you, then that's something that you're dancing with. That's part of your curriculum that you can look at how to heal. And maybe you need to unpack it with someone. Maybe you just need to take it into prayer and meditation. But if you will sit with it, you will get clarity on what it is you need to look at.
Yeah.
But I would encourage all of us to first and foremost in those situations to, okay, what is this calling me to look at?
How can I turn a negative into a positive? Right?
Yeah. Does that help at all? Does that? No? Yeah. Oh, hang on a second.
Hey.
Yes.
Hey.
Hey.
Are we supposed to stand?
No, you don't need to.
So basically, from my understanding with unity, you could be a Buddhist, you could be a Zen practitioner, you could be a Hindu, you could be a Christian, you could be a Jew, you could be a Druid, you could be a atheist, and still get something from unity, or be a unity person. So what is it exactly? Why do we focus on the Bible, and what do we mean by the Christ? Are we talking about Jesus, or what do we mean by that?
Good question. Yeah.
All good questions.
Yeah. So it's like when people say that they're a Christian, then I have to ask them, well, what do you mean by that? Like what you're saying. You know, are you talking about the judgmental, fiery hell and damnation? Or are you talking about a spiritual practice? Jesus said, you will know my disciples because of the love that they express for each other, right? So, truth is universal. We call it Christian, call it Buddhism, we call it Hinduism, whatever. Truth is universal. And there are many paths according to the person, you know, that is experiencing it and what they find that works for them. And how many know we have to learn to be okay with that, because we're not going to get along with anybody, with any other nation, with any other country, with any other culture. It just so happens in America, you know, we've got a westernized idea about what Christianity is, where Christianity is really more Eastern because it came from the East. Did you know that? So what Jesus was saying is the same thing that many of the other spiritual teachers were saying, you know, because the all truth is true, you know, or the truth is always the truth. It doesn't matter. It's a principle. Once you get the principle, then I can sit down with a Buddhist. I can sit down with an atheist. You know, I remember sitting with an atheist one time. We had a great conversation. I said, yes, I don't believe in the same God you don't believe in. You know? I don't believe in that either. And so people have a right to express their opinion and their thoughts. And we talk a lot about Jesus and the Christ. And the Christ is really that universal spirit that is in all of us. It's just a label, right? It's just a name that you know, we've come up with. And some people call it something different. Take in a good breath right now. And just focus on your heart space. Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth will speak. So what's in your heart this morning? It really depends on what you're focusing on, what you're thinking about, what you tell yourself over and over again. Are you being kind to yourself? Are you being gentle with yourself? The worst kind of bullying is when you bully yourself. Judging yourself over and over and over. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? When we learn, instead of focusing so much on the self-judgment, it's okay to critique, it's okay to review, to research. But when you can affirm, I choose peace. I choose peaceful thoughts. I choose gentleness and kindness. And the way you express it is unique to you. You might look really cool when you do it. Yeah. Because I believe in doing the right thing is always the best thing. Doing the right thing in every moment that we can. But it starts with how you treat yourself. I am a child of God. Do I make mistakes? Yes. Will I fall down? Yes. Will I need a redo? Absolutely. But that's okay, because that's the human experience. So I'm going to take it as it is rather than how I'm trying to make it fit. And just let it be what it is. And just enjoy it for what it is today. And then you'll discover little by little, day by day, moment by moment, week by week, month by month, even year by year, you start to change. You become more complete within yourself and more accepting of yourself and others. And the world is a little lighter and brighter because you have your own spiritual practice. And you keep working on it. Keep working on it. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Every time you close your eyes and get quiet, thank you for that. Thank you for your prayers for others. Thank you for the good works that you do. It's so important. Thank you for your kindness. Can you feel that gratitude for those around you? Most people are just doing the best they can. They're doing their best. If they knew better, they'd most likely do better. So we get to practice forgiveness. Yeah. That person that cut you off in traffic. People who are rude and sometimes even abusive. We need to take ourselves out of those situations and learn to be with ourselves in the highest and best way that we can. Then we can be around others. More accepting, more loving, more kind, more expressionate, creative, and powerful. That's the key. So if you know of someone that you would like to pray for this morning, that you want to hold in this space, whether it be loved ones, family, friends, neighbors, whoever it is, bring them into your awareness now. And I invite you, in your own way, say a prayer for them now. Say a prayer for them. Bless them. Try to see the higher good that's in them. Maybe they have needs in their lives. Well, we believe and trust that that universal source takes care of all of us. Wants to take care of them too. And so we just bring them into this moment with us. We pray the highest good, the higher good, the common good, the greater good, for wellness and wholeness, healing, loneliness, healing that feeling of separation and division, healing the hurts and the wounds, the confusions. We're here to be part of the solution, to be a healing presence on the earth. And we thank you, God. We thank you, our Father, Mother, God, for loving us unconditionally. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And loving my friend in need. I just hold him in this space. And I'm grateful for all the work that's being done on their behalf. Thank you. And so now I invite you just to sit in the stillness for just a moment and let all of this just percolate around and just settle in. Thank you, Holy Sacred Spirit. Thank you, my God, my friend, my father, my mother, my everything. Thank you, my source. I'm so grateful this morning. And so we say, amen. So be it. So it is. Let's take a moment to stretch a little bit. Let your spine kind of straighten up and yeah. Look around the room and maybe smile at somebody.
Hey, thank you all for such great questions this morning. They were awesome. The questions were awesome. I'm going to remind us, I'm going to go back to those two of the agreements, not to take anything personally, and don't make assumptions in the answers that you heard. Remember that that's all in the moment. If you want something further unpacked or the answer didn't get to the heart of your question, James and I are always available to talk with you following the service or at any time. So thank you for the questions.